This is our Delac families? Yes? Okay, good. So, buenos dias. Oh, dang it, I had on my lineup dropped. Is there a clicker? That's what got.
Oh, yeah.
Bienvenidos. There we go. Good morning.
Is it Spanish?
It was, but then it didn't come out right, so it was.
You can try again.
No, it's all right.
Time, I get the clicker.
All right, there is a massive change happening in California education finance. And it's happening at the same time there's a massive change in California educational systems, and the assessment system in particular. So one of the things that we're being asked to do is communicate to all of our district stakeholders what those changes are. And what I'm going to present to you today is an overview of a plan that has to be written to support the new funding system that Governor Brown and the state legislature passed a few months ago. Any questions about that?
Do we need to translate?
Yeah, so that was where...
We have a translator.
no?
¿Usted habla español? Sí, si necesita ayuda, no pregunte por traducir cualquier cosa que me quiera. Si no, lo dice todo, lo va a decir todo en inglés. ¿Está bien?
Mi español es
It's okay.
poquito.
Mine is poquito, but
Poquito better, good, yeah. No muchas palabras. Yeah, so I don't know what that means.
Just hit the postpone.
We've had issues in the midst of everything else.
You're having issues?
My computer broke down in the midst of everything else, and I'm like, oh, so here you go.
Okay, so if I like to talk, as these people will tell you, I talk rapido. So just say slow down, okay? Okay, the key is that you understand, not that I get through my presentation. So any questions, feel free to just raise your hand, except for Michael Bunch, because he could probably say this by himself, yeah? You've heard this so many times.
A couple times.
All right, so LCFF is the new funding formula. It's called Local Control Funding Formula. The plan is called Local Control Accountability Plan, or LCAP. They are one and the same. One's the money, one's the way you're going to spend it.
Oh my word. I'll do it. I'm sorry. Okay,
All right, so I can do it. You don't have to do it. That's right. Okay.
I'm sorry about that.
This is the prize. All right. So, I'm going to stand over here now. Any questions so far about technology? Because clearly we've got it going on. All right. So, two things have been happening Which button? Okay. The two things are happening simultaneously. Since last March, the district has been working with the community stakeholders to develop a strategic plan. There were multiple efforts to talk to students, teachers, parents, community members, board members, district and site administrators, and out of that was a plan that was adopted in December of 2013, just last December. In the middle of that process, the state announces that it's going to change its funding formula, and we are going to have to write an LCAP plan. And so what we're basically doing is taking all the work we did in the strategic plan that was adopted in December and putting it into the LCAP template and recommunicating it back to the community to tell them what they wanted before and give them a last chance to say, we still want that, or this is some things that we want you to reconsider. Any questions on that? The key pieces to this, is this time for Blazer? Yeah. Is this piece right here and this piece right here. So in all the discussions, in all of the conversations, we were able to identify 5 specific areas in the strategic plan that the community wanted the district to focus its efforts and its resources for helping kids. Student achievement, district culture and leadership, fiscal strength, parent and community relationships, and 21st century skills, college and career readiness. Those are the 5 areas. So everything that we built into the plan falls under those 5 areas. The second thing we did are these numbers right here. Very important. Muy importante. Number 1, 4, 8, 12, and focus areas. So in our strategic plan, we built in benchmarks. And those benchmarks represent how kids are doing along the progression of grades to make sure that at the end of their 12-year experience, 12th grade, we can say they were college or career ready. So we have a reading goal, a reading and writing goal, a math goal, and a college career ready goal. So we have brought in a nationally normed assessment, and we're tracking kids' progress both in reading and math in every grade level as they move through our system, but we track it as a strategic plan checking point at those areas. We also added a focus area, a group of students, subgroups of students, who in our analysis are falling behind other subgroups of students. The subgroups that we have are African American, Hispanic, English learners, low socioeconomic, and special education. Those kids are performing at a lower level than other subgroups in our district. That's the bad news. The good news is, if you look at San Joaquin County and those same subgroups, our subgroups of African American, Hispanic, low socioeconomic, special education, English learners are outperforming the county by a significant mark. So our lowest performing subgroups are outperforming their counterparts in other districts, but they're still not performing at the same level as other subgroups in our district. Any questions?
Yes, so the target that you're measuring this against, it's a state target?
Yes and no. So I'm going to explain that right now. It's a great question. This data point here is from the district assessment we brought in called Measures of Academic Progress. It's a computer adaptive test similar to the new state assessment, where kids get on and they answer questions. If they get the question right, they get a more difficult question, and it keeps going up. And if they start to miss questions, then it starts to make it more easy. And out of that, they find where their skill set is. Yes?
Testing, right.
Yeah.
Okay, ustedes han visto, han sabido que sus tiempos hijos en qué escuela. Aquí en esta, porque hay unas pruebas en que hay una prueba que hemos tomado ya 2 veces, tal vez 3 veces en esta escuela, que es en donde está representando toda esta formación.
Any questions?
I explain that.
Okay. So here's our kids are the orange. Where they should be as advanced and proficient is the red. This was in the middle of the year. So our youngest kids are a little behind the mark, but as you can see, as we move up the grade spans, our kids meet or exceed the mark. That's what you would expect to see in a high-performing district. In math, you see the same trend, a little bit behind, and as it progresses, we meet or exceed the math mark. So we are achieving very, very well at what the old measure was. And so what we can say is that our kids are progressing nicely in meeting the needs and goals of our strategic plan. So, in the midst of all of this, Governor Brown and the state legislature passed a new funding formula. The last time they changed the funding formula was the result of a 1972 court case called Serrano, where Baldwin Park, a low-income district, was fighting with Beverly Hills, a high-income district, about what they could and couldn't do based on the state funding. And in 72 and the era after that, they changed the rules. So since 1972, 40 years ago, they haven't changed it until right now. So it's all new. So here's kind of an important part here. It's a spending plan that gives school districts more money, but they give you a smallest amount in year 1, and a little bit more in year 2, and a little bit more in year 3, until you get to 8 years. So in 2020, we get fully funded. Any questions about that? Okay, 2. It is a specifically identified group of students that get additional funding to support California's needs, and I'll explain that to you in a second, but there are 3 specific areas, subgroups of students, that are targeted to get additional funding. So all students get one amount of money, and then if you fall within those 3 categories, you get another amount of money. And if a school district has a large population of any of those three areas, you get even more money. So let me explain how that works. The three areas that the state is very focused on are low socioeconomic or low income students, students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. The second area is English learners, students whose parents' home language survey says that English is not the primary language spoken at home, fall within this category until they do well on the test and they do well on the CELT test, the California English Language Development Test. Any questions about those two? And the third group is a underrepresented group in the system, which is foster youth. So those three groups of students are targeted by the state's new budgeting system. Okay? The other thing about LCFF is it gives more control to the local school board and sets expectations on the school district to reach out to all stakeholder groups to get feedback about what resources the community wants to invest in their school system. And that all comes, oh no, what did I do?
Oh, it's really
Okay. So this is the formula at its very simplest level. Every student gets an allocation. So schools are paid by student. Every student who shows up gets an amount of money that goes into the school system to support their education. But the state added additional funding for kindergarten through 3rd grade and additional funding for 9th through 12th grade. So these kids get this base amount plus this amount. 4th through 6th grade gets this. 7, 8 gets this. 9 through 12 gets this. So what is this additional $723? It's for class size reduction. Class size reduction means that instead of 32 kids in every classroom, the state has said 24 kids. So that money is to go to pay for the additional teachers in kindergarten through 3rd grade that are necessary to reduce the class size. The other very important part to the state of California is career technical ed. So you keep hearing the term college and career ready. The career ready piece is where you give kids opportunities in career technical ed. So it could be engineering, it could be computer science, it could be welding, it could be ag. These are some things that we're supposed to spend these dollars to develop those opportunities for kids over time.
I'm sorry, you said career technical ed?
Correct. Okay, so this is how it works. Every student gets that base amount. Then, if you have a student who qualifies in your district for low income or low socioeconomic, or English learner, then you get a 20% supplemental grant for every one of those students. In our district, we have 17% of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch or low income. And we have 9% of our students who qualify for English learners. So we get additional funding for these students out of the supplemental grant. So they get the base amount plus a little bit more to support their educational needs. Yes?
If the student falls in both categories, do you get a double?
No.
You know,
Excellent question.
Trying to
No,
double.
absolutely not. In fact, it's in bright letters. You can't double dip. Okay, so we don't qualify for this section, but let me just explain it to you. If you had a district with large student population of low-income students that met 55% of the total student population, any student above the 55% threshold, you get additional funding. So, for example, I used to work in Stockton Unified. Their high poverty mark is 84%. So 84% of the students that attend that district qualify for free and reduced lunch. So from 55 to 84 in Stockton Unified, they get an additional concentration grant of 50% of the base amount. We don't come close to that number, but the high poverty districts, high EL populations, they get a lot of money. And I can tell you that LCFF is putting into Stockton Unified's financial account $14 million additional. So there's a little imbalance there in terms of our district and Stockton in a lot of ways. we are the highest performing school districts in San Joaquin County. So that's part of it. But the idea is they want to support the needs of those students. So I'm going to put all these up at once. Okay, the old system, yeah, did you have a question? The old system was, here are the money, okay, let me say it this way. It's called categorical funds. You get pockets of money, and then they would tell you how to spend the money. And then you would write a report to say that you spent the money in the way they told you to, and then the state would tell you if you did a good job or bad job. That's the old system. That's this system here. The old system collapsed in the financial crisis of the last 5 years. And so they basically threw out all the rules and let districts sweep the money into helping keep teachers paid and people paid. And so the old system collapsed, and the new system is different. What they're saying is all the old pockets of money are going to be put into LCFF funding. And you're going to get to choose which way you want to prioritize your kids' needs and use the money for that. So local control is the school board gets to pick how it wants to spend the money. And it's our responsibility to reach out to our stakeholders to explain to them just exactly how we're going to do that. So our strategic plan work, it's very clear what the parents want. It's very clear programs that the teachers and the principals in the district would like to bring back. Music, gate, after-school support structures, things like that that were gotten rid of when the budget collapsed can now be brought back. Not everything, but we can create a priority list. The strategic plan has already identified what the parents and the students and the other stakeholders want. We're just going to put that plan into the LCAP plan and re-present it to make sure everybody's clear on what the priorities are. And if there's a desire to shift something, we have one last chance to do that. Yes?
And where is it presented at?
The LCAP plan? The LCAP plan is being written as we speak.
Right.
So you ask a good question. The template was just adopted by the state in January. So we have a draft template that we're working from, and they're going to solidify it. They're kind of building a plane as it's flying. So we're running along with it. So we have the most of it done. We'll be bringing it back out when it's all done. And the process will be, LCAP plan is done. We bring it out as a draft to all of our stakeholder groups. It'll be presented at schools. It'll be presented to the community. It'll be presented here again. People can review it, ask questions, and the like. And then we ultimately take it to a district advisory committee, which is made up of all of representatives of all stakeholder groups. And that advisory committee has been in existence since we started the strategic plan. And then they'll take a final look. We'll make those changes, and then we ultimately take it to the board. There'll be a public hearing, and then an official approval in June. Okay? So, in a nutshell, the old strings-attached system is gone. There's more control at the local level for school boards representing the community to make decisions about priority programs. So this chart is an example of the shift. So in the past, all of these different areas came with an amount of money and a set of rules. In the new system, the rules are gone for the most part, and now we can have a conversation as a community about which one of these things do we want to prioritize and which one do we want to invest the resources in. So for example, if we wanted to build, okay, we made major cuts to our music program, if we want to build that back in, and that's, I don't know myself, Weston, I'll finish this up. If we want to rebuild our music program, or even make it bigger and stronger, now that we have a high school music program, then we can say, through the LCAP, we want to invest X amount of LCFF money into music, and over 2 or 3 years, build a great state-of-the-art music program. Or, let's say we want to do GATE, or we want to focus on school safety, or we want to build 21st century libraries. The whole idea is, what does the community want to build? We have a small amount of resources to build it, and we start to build it based on that effort. Any questions about that? That's really the most important part of LCAP. So we get more choice, in the limited resources that we have to build things that we prioritize as a community. So, the good news. One of the most expensive things to do in running education systems is class size reduction. The state has made it very clear, 24-to-1 is the expectation. Our district already is at 24-to-1, so we have to make no adjustments here. We've already met the mark. So other districts are going to be scrambling to hire teachers and find classrooms. We've already done it. And kudos to our LTA Teachers Association, Dale Hansen, and our school board, because they had the foresight to make that happen already. This slide just represents all of the different things that have to be considered. You have to figure out your accounting services, your facility needs, your staffing needs, and your instructional needs before you can really write a coherent plan. And this little flash here is basically, our focus is to provide the highest quality education for all students, but the money can go to any one of these areas if that's deemed the priority. So LCAP, interestingly enough, our strategic plan has 5 areas. The state has said that they want us to focus on 8 areas. These are the 8 areas. I know you can't see them, but I have them listed here. If you look at a side-by-side comparison, you're going to see that what we picked in the strategic plan is essentially what the state picked, because it's pretty obvious what you're supposed to focus on, right? So, student achievement, school climate or district culture, basic services or strong use of your money, parent involvement, parent and community resources, and then we call it 21st century and college and career ready. But when you look at these things, are students getting the courses they want? Are they being engaged? Are they coming to school? Are there other outcomes that you're seeking to give them? And are we implementing well the Common Core State Standards? So their priorities that they establish for us for LCAP and our priorities we established in the strategic plan process are essentially aligned. Any questions about that? Okay, this is just a list of all the different presentations that we've made to gather input to communicate to the community. So since July, whether it was principal, assistant principal training, or all of our teachers in a gym, or at the community service district meetings to the public, or parent meetings, we have been talking about this, talking about the strategic plan, the district initiatives, and all the things we're doing, because that's our responsibility, regardless of this, to communicate what's going on. So this is simply just a list of all the different ways we're communicating to the public. The state has also given us measurables. Each one of these boxes, which are difficult to read, but we can certainly show you what they are all the different statistics that we have to produce within the 8 areas that they identified. So some examples. What is our API score? That's the score that we use from the California Standards Test to say that our district performance is at 872. There is no other unified school district in San Joaquin County that has that number, so we can say our API score is the highest unified score in the county. When a parent comes to me and says, yeah, but how are you doing against San Ramon, Lafayette, Piedmont, and the like, we can say we're a little bit below them, so our goal is to get to that level, because that's kind of what the community wants. So if you look at student engagement, how the state defines it is absenteeism, dropout rates, graduation rates, and attendance. So we have to track all of this data along with the 1, 4, 8, 12 and those focus areas to communicate to the state. So ultimately, and in wrapping up, these subgroups, if they represent 15% of our student population, we track statistically. These subgroups, we track statistically. This group, this group, and some of this group are already in our strategic plan as a subgroup that we're tracking. And for the state, we will track the very small number of foster youth we have, and we are continuing to track our special ed kids' performance. So, the LCAP, which is what this presentation is about, is the plan that explains to the state how we're spending the money. And the difference is, in the old system, you wrote a plan and there was no accountability. In the new system, you write your plan, you attach the money to it, you measure how your plan worked, and you're accountable for fixing it if it's not working. Any questions about that? Okay, so just the details. The LCAP is a 3-year plan. Every July it gets annually reviewed. We have to have goals for these subgroups of students, and we have to write goals that are aligned to the budget. And with that, you have an adoption process. What we did in the strategic plan adoption process is do all these things they asked us to do for the LCAP. So what we're doing is taking that process, including it in our LCAP process as, yes, we're following the rules that you've established, and right now we're right here. We're sending out this morning a survey to everybody in the community about what we're doing in the district strategic plan to get written feedback about writing the LCAP. Does that make sense? And finally, when we get to June, after going back out and re-explaining, we'll go to our district advisory committee. They will sign off on it. We'll take it to the board for a hearing, and then we will take it to the board for official approval. And that will happen in June, and we have to submit it to the county by July 1st. Any questions? That was a lot of information. I apologize, I went fast. But to summarize, there's a new funding system. Comes with new rules. There's more freedom to spend money on things you want to. There's more accountability to explain why you're spending the money and delivering for kids. Any questions? Muchísimas gracias. Hasta luego.
Thank you.
Okay.
When you're done.
We're done.
You're done?
I mean, this is it.
Okay.
Now we're just gathering feedback.
So when they send out this is my question because that's when I translate for the other ladies that didn't make it today. When they present it back to the community, like you said at the end, when they send out that feedback form, is that only in English?
I think at this time it is, but I can talk to the superintendent about that.
That was my other question, was what our English learners are not all Hispanic either. What's our high, like I was wondering if San Joaquin County had maybe translation services for our high number groups, English learner groups.
Which I think is Punjabi in this area, Filipino and the Spanish. I think were the top three.
But I think we need to acknowledge it, and I think PowerPoint presentation probably should be translated and posted online in our high density or high number English learner groups.
That's a good point. Very good. I'll talk to the superintendent about that.
¿No cree usted que sería muy bueno que la explicaran en español para las nuevas gente?
Sí, se me hace interesante.
Pues por eso es lo que decimos. Nosotros normalmente lo hacemos en español, en la otra escuela, en toda la gente. Yo las estoy traduciendo en español, presentaciones, y como esto es tan importante para el Estado, bueno, para nuestro distrito en general, yo digo que sería bueno que, como dijiste, que toda la información que acaba de presentar, como es importante que todos demos nuestra opinión, sería bueno que la traduciéramos en los lenguajes que son latinos, la mayoría que existen en el distrito de nosotros.
Okay, we're not done with the meeting, but I would like to walk with the posters there and just see if there's anything that she would like to add or a question on there, questions you can put on there, additions and thoughts.
And for those that were absent, are those posters going to be in your office?
Yes.
Because
I'm keeping them for other meetings too, and we're going to do the post-its, so yes, I'll keep them there. I'll roll them up to keep them. And then if we have just a Delac meeting,
correct.
and not a Delac, we can do that.
We should do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Have you done this yet? You want to go ahead and do that too? I think everybody's.
Eso es súper importante porque usted ahorita tiene solamente una niña y no sé cuántos en este distrito. Tengo 3 hijos y unos que están estados. Tengo uno de colegio y luego ahorita ya tenemos un Entonces es súper importante que nosotras demos nuestra opinión. La hija de ustedes habla español.
Sí, ¿cuáles son los beneficios que mi hija podría recibir?
Pero beneficios como en ayuda con la tarea, cosas así.
Exactamente, que hay más problemas cuando esto puede ser por fuera.
Exacto.
Música.
Y esas cosas son las que ahora necesitan escucharlo. Y ese es lo importante también. Yo y ellos